Go. Welcome to Celebrity Interviews with Paul. I have with me today CJ Clark. CJ is the Executive Director of Living Water Ministries. If you couldn't guess it, it's right there on his hoodie. Living Water Ministries is a ministry in Michigan for primarily the Lutheran Church, but also other denominations participate, the Episcopalian Church as well. And they do kind of summer camping ministries at Stony Creek, right? Not the lake. The lake's up here.
Stony Lake.
Stony Lake is there. The creek is here.
No creeks.
Stony Lake. And as well as run great youth ministry programming, synod-wide, statewide kind of events and things like that. Welcome to Celebrity Interviews, CJ.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, not only do we do stuff statewide, we actually do some things nationwide. We have a few programs that reach all over the country, and not only do we do stuff just for the synods and the congregations there, but we do things for like a ton of people outside of that. A lot of our work, I don't think a lot of people know that, so we're a little bit more than just a traditional camp program these days. We're serving adults with developmental disabilities, children in foster care, families that are homeless. This summer we would have hosted for the first time children with incarcerated parents. We have an anti-racism and leadership development camp, and we have a multicultural youth leadership academy. Those two are the national ones, and so we're a small but mighty organization.
Well, and a lot of that, of course, with those kind of populations that you're reaching out to as well, I assume that includes some scholarship and monies and things like that to help fund things. And
yeah, big time. Since 2015, we've really ramped that up. So we give away about $50,000 in scholarships a year. We've given away over $213,000 just since 2015 to over 660 participants. So
that's amazing.
Making a way where there's been no way before.
Absolutely. So how's life in the pandemic for you?
Well, it's been busy. You would think it wouldn't be. We canceled summer camp,
Yeah.
And you would think that would have been the best thing to happen to me in the last 15 years, just because the chaos of all that and all the
right.
It's an awesome, fun thing, but there's just a lot of moving parts and a million questions that come every day in the summer. And I just couldn't really settle into that. So, and it's been busy. We've been trying to hold together this organization, and that's been real. And, on top of all that, I'm doing seminary studies. So I'm working full time, more than full time. How a ministry job is. And then,
absolutely.
And then adding part-time schoolwork into that. So it's just been a
lot.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you going to seminary?
I'm going to Luther. They're giving it away for free. So,
ooh, nice.
And I can do it from home. So that all worked.
That's like 2 for 2 right there.
Yeah, I had to stop denying it and say, okay, well, there are no more barriers except for time. And that's a thing. But
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, how's your job changed? You had to cancel summer camp this summer. How has your role changed as executive director there since the pandemic?
In some ways, the role is what it's always been. It's problem solving on the fly. The summer presents that to you. Ministry presents that to you all the time. But certainly this thing has required me to learn to embrace the unknown in a way that I have not had to do so before. That's been a real learning curve. I'm used to steering the ship pretty boldly, and this pandemic has taught me a lot about what I don't control.
Okay.
and that's been an adjustment. And because we can't do much by way of programming, because our programming is centered around bringing people together, like, face to face mostly. So we've thrown ourselves into fundraising quite a bit. That's really been how the work has changed. I already did that piece, but it's just amplified that piece significantly. And that's been going pretty well. So
yeah, good. What are so do you have successes though? I mean, it's not all like, I know everything's been canceled. The year they canceled everything, they say, but do you have good things to report?
Yeah, great things going on are, just the support from our donors has been huge this year. We have acquired over 600 new donors in the last 12 months.
Wow. People really, they heard that, they saw the need and they stepped up and they said, we want to make sure that Living Water Ministries is here to do ministry next year too.
Yeah, people are thinking of us, and we do a fundraising race that we still did in the fall, somewhat remote, kind of a hybrid of remote and together. We were just a small group. And that whole thing is designed around runners raising $2,000 within their own networks each.
Okay.
And that generates a ton of donors every year for us as well.
Sure.
Sure.
So that's the Ragnar, which is like a 200-mile race that usually is like you get teams and you get the van and go from point to point, and there's teams from all over the state of Michigan and groups and
Yep.
elite runners and shufflers and everything in between, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
and
the shufflers.
you're the shufflers. And the
come into the
Ragnar
bottom
this year,
25%.
yeah, but how are you in fundraising?
We raised over $82,000 and our goal was 48. So
Holy cow.
yeah,
That's
it was
great.
a really good year. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And then you did that like out and back loops at the camp and things like that, so that you could run the distance but do it safely and control the environment a little bit more.
Yeah, we masked up when we weren't running, and we assigned sleeping quarters. You were assigned a toilet and a shower that's specific to you, or maybe you one other person. So we just really made sure things were separated. Food was handled in a certain way, and all that. So
right.
It went really well.
Good. So what's going to help guide you as you make your plans, your decisions, figure out what to do, what 2021 is going to look like?
Well, we're closely looking at the data on all this because that's where you got to start, I think.
Sure.
I'm on the committee at my church that is discerning this stuff, and so we've been talking even as a congregation that the data drives the decision making, but also as people of faith, there are kind of two things that live together. One, because of Christ, fear of death kind of isn't a thing, really.
Right.
And yet, because God is a God that brings life, we are kind of called to protect life. And so those things somewhat can live in tension depending on how you approach it. But that mandate to protect life is a big one for us that we're taking pretty seriously as we look at the data and try and figure out what to do. The thing we keep saying is, we don't want little Abby to come to camp and have a great experience where she meets Jesus, and then she goes home and helps her grandma meet Jesus.
Right.
And so we're not only trying to think of the safety and security of the campers that come here, but then their communities back home, especially because we serve so many people in marginalized and vulnerable populations too. So.
Sure. I mean, that's the challenge for everybody, right? It's not just taking care of me, but then it's everything around us and all the rest too. Yeah. And then that is all about, then it becomes living with COVID and living in the midst of COVID, and in the pandemic becomes less about just taking care of me and thinking about me and keeping me safe, or evaluating my own personal risk, but evaluating the people around me and how I maintain safety for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are certainly financial things we need to worry about, but I don't know that opening just because the money dictates we do is the right move. And I think we'll survive this, whatever ends up happening. There's financial loss to this for us. That's just a reality. But I think we will be able to survive it without not much trouble, but we'll feel it, but it'll be okay.
Yeah. I think I'd say something similar to my congregation too. It's there's challenges and there's losses in the midst of all this, but we'll make it through.
We refer to it as a loss of momentum, and the real loss of momentum beyond financial is like, what do you do when half your campers and half your staff are returning from the year prior and there's no summer for them to return from?
Right.
Or possibly even, we're not totally sure, the jury's not out on what 2021 holds yet. So
are you kidding me? They're sequestered and they're not saying anything, CJ, that jury.
Right.
I mean, and if you think that there's some magic switch that gets flipped and all of a sudden it's back to normal,
Yeah. So that loss of momentum is real, and we're trying to think ahead on that. So
sure, absolutely. Well, I said from the beginning that we're in it together. I would tell my congregation this: we're in it together. Things will take longer than we want, and yet there are still opportunities that God's placing before us. So where do you see opportunities for Living Water Ministries? Yeah,
that's an interesting question. We've been wrestling with a lot in this because the nature of our work is so face-to-face, and so much, like our mission says that we're called to bring together all of God's children for experiences of, a few things and community,
Right.
And so how do you do that? And the Zoom fatigue is real, and being in the outdoors and the immersive experiences we create here doesn't translate to that medium very well. We've just tried to own that. So really, I think a lot of our opportunity is on the other side of this. Like, we're looking ahead to what is life like beyond this. We've been given the opportunity, I think, in this time to dream a little bit. And I think just to build our capacity for support through fundraising. We're reinvesting in our facility. So like we launched a cabin campaign,
Mm-hmm.
kind of quietly. We're talking to congregations first, but right before the pandemic hit, and then that all paused, but now it's back on, and we're going to probably exceed the goals that we set to raise this year for that.
Wonderful.
And so that's really great. So really what we're doing is we're trying to build for the future when we can get back to the work,
Sure.
and lay all the groundwork so that can go well. So yeah, most of those opportunities are on the other side.
Where do you find joy in these days?
Oh, right now it's fall. Like this is my season.
Okay.
If I could stop time
Mm-hmm.
forever at 5 p.m. on a sunny, cool fall day in the middle of October, that would be the moment I would want to live in forever.
Mm.
But I'm also just really enjoying weekends. I'm not a pastor. I don't preach I don't serve at church, but I do preach on Sundays at a variety of places all year round. So
Sure.
I'm either gone preaching, or my wife is usually out of town. She does work in ministry, and she has to travel all over the country around January through April, and that's been on pause. And so usually in any given year, my wife and I only have like 2 weekends home alone together,
Right.
that we aren't traveling to see family or doing work or whatever, or
Sure.
managing
Sure.
my kids' schedule. And it's just been a blessing and a joy and a gift to just be able to be home on a weekend.
Yep. Yep.
And
There are definitely gifts in the midst of the ugliness. So.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for what you do,
I
and thank you
appreciate
for the gifts of the ministry. And we will hold you in prayer and hope for inspired creativity and generosity to abound for Living Water Ministries in the future. Thank you for being part of Celebrity Interviews with Paul, CJ.
I feel so very celebrity-like. I'll sign autographs the next time I see you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll make it happen.
That's right.
Thanks, CJ.
All right, thank you.